My palms felt clammy as I smoothed the white tablecloth across our polished oak dining table. My heart hammered against my ribs, each beat echoing louder than the last. The spring valley sun filtered through gauzy curtains, casting honeyed glows on my grandmother's china. I arranged sterling flatware with trembling fingers, recalling the whispered warning from my husband this morning. "Stay calm," he'd said softly, brushing a kiss across my temple. I forced a steady breath, determined not to crumble before the family. Everyone gathered in the foyer, greetings bouncing off walls adorned with framed memories. My sister-in-law, Elizabeth, in her floral wrap dress, flirted effortlessly with Grandpa Joe's cane as he regaled us with Civil War anecdotes. The aroma of sage-roasted turkey mingled with sweet potato casserole wafting from the kitchen. My 3 kids, ages 7, 5, and 2, ran circles around Uncle Mike's recliner, shrieking with glee. Brian hovered near the staircase, offering polite smiles and subtle nods. He squeezed my hand once, eyes flicking towards the living room. Clock like a man awaiting a verdict, we settled at the table, grandmother at the head, Brian to her right, me to her left. Lizzie chattered about her latest charity gala while Uncle Mike carved the turkey with practiced precision. The conversation ebbed and flowed between political skirmishes and rumors about the mayor's re-election campaign. I forced polite laughter, though my mind reeled from a text message I'd received earlier that afternoon. A bank statement, a notification of several unusual withdrawals from our joint account. I'd printed copies, tucked them into my purse pocket, my cold fingers crinkling each page. My breath caught when Brian leaned forward, offering me the first slice of pie. His voice was low, its timbre soothing. "Stay calm," he whispered again, as his thumb brushed mine across the table. How could I possibly remain calm when the evidence stared back at me in cold print? For unauthorized ATM withdrawals, spaced over 3 weeks, each just under the daily limit to avoid bank alerts. Over $2,000 in cash, gone without a trace except for these printed lines I now held. My grandmother began grace, her gentle voice weaving through my turmoil. Her words echoed ancient rhythms, grateful, blessed provision. I folded my hands, though my grip tightened around the receipts hidden beneath the folds of my napkin. The rich scent of gravy and rosemary mingled with suspicion rising in my chest. I stole a glance at Brian's profile, the faint shadows under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. He met my eyes briefly, a flicker of guilt veiling his usual warmth. The eldest of my children, Sophie, tapped her fork against the plate, eager for dessert. She didn't know why Mom's hands shook. She didn't know why Dad kept whispering, like he feared the walls might overhear. My husband's calm thought crumbled in the tremor of his fingers. I swallowed the lump in my throat, recalling late nights reviewing our account statements in the home office. The Crete bedrooms above buzzed with the hush of bedtime routines, oblivious to the storm gathering below. The mashed potatoes shimmered under glare from the chandelier's crystals as I cleared my throat. I'd rehearsed this moment, practiced each sentence until it slid off my tongue without shaking. Brian's sister turned her head, eyebrows arching in polite curiosity. I pinched my eyes shut for a fraction of a second, summoning my courage. Then I exhaled, lifting the corner of my napkin. Within lay the bank's detailed records, each line item a testament to Brian's deception. Silence clamped around us like a vice. Plates slowed midair as forks hesitated inches from mouths. Grandmother's hand froze, poised above her glass of iced tea. Lizzie gasped, exchanging a quick glance with Uncle Mike. Even the children stilled, eyes wide with sudden dread. Brian's face drained of color, sweat beading at his hairline. He opened his mouth, stuttered, then closed it again, like a trapped fish gasping for release in shallow water. I laid the remaining receipts across the table, fanning them out like a lawyer presenting evidence. Each paper fluttered, capturing candlelight. I described the dates and amounts, the ATM locations miles away from his office. My voice trembled at first, then steadied as I saw recognition dawn in their eyes. Grandma's usually serene expression hardened with concern. Lizzie's lips parted, disbelief twisting her features. Uncle Mike clenched his jaw, and Sophie whimpered, burying her face in my coat, breathless. I met Brian's eyes, searching for honesty amid the chaos. He swallowed, voice barely a whisper. I can explain. He paused, his gaze dropping to the floor as my heart sank. I realized right then that the calm he urged me to maintain was his shield, his desperate bid to control the narrative. I straightened my shoulders, resolved not to let his words drown out the truth. This was my family, my home, and I would fight to protect both from whatever secrets he had hidden for so long. I inhaled sharply, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. My children watched me, their faces pale beneath the glow of chandelier crystals. I gathered the receipts in a neat stack, cleared my throat, then spoke again. A deep silence stretched, expectation hanging heavily in the air. I lifted my head, resolved to seize control of this night's narrative. I followed Brian's lead into the living room, heart pounding so loudly I was certain the walls could hear it. My grandmother's perfume still lingered in the dining room, mixing uneasily with the scent of burned candles left on the sideboard. Brian closed the door behind us, leaned against it, and folded his arms across his chest as if bracing for impact. I stood just inside the doorway, clutching the edge of the frame, my mind spinning with questions. His voice came out low, apologetic, almost pleading. I never meant for this to happen, he said, and I realized in that moment how little I truly knew the man I married. I demanded that he explain every withdrawal, every trip to an ATM in neighborhoods he never worked in. His eyes darted toward the window, unable to meet mine. He whispered that it started small, some extra cash for poker games with friends, but then spiraled out of control as he chased losses he couldn't recoup. He admitted that he'd been hiding stacks of bills in the glove compartment of our car, in his jacket pockets, and even tucked inside old textbooks in the home office. I pictured our children playing just a few feet away, blissfully unaware of debt and deceit simmering beneath our roof. Anger flared like wildfire through my veins. I paced the length of the couch, recalling late nights poring over budgets and tax forms while Brian was supposedly working late at the office. I remembered his gentle smile, the way he called me love, the nights we stayed up planning vacations and college funds. All of it felt like a lie. He tried to reach for my hand, but I drew back, my throat tight. How long? I rasped. He swallowed hard, closed his eyes, then whispered. 6 months. The words hit me like a sledgehammer, and I turned away, to hide the tears he had forced out of me. I asked why he never came to me for help. He said he was ashamed, that he thought he could fix it on his own. But every lie, every hushed conversation in the garage, every suspicious trip to the ATM chipped away at my trust. I told him that our marriage was built on partnership, honesty, love, and that without those foundations we had nothing. The walls of the living room felt close, suffocating me with memories of our wedding photos and anniversary cards nailed to the walls. He met my gaze and promised to stop gambling, to seek help, to restore what he had broken. We heard a knock on the front door and children's giggles echoing down the hallway. Sophie's voice called for her daddy, and I felt a pang of guilt. The youngest, Emma, had scraped her knee earlier and Brian had kissed it better. Tiny moments of tenderness flickered in my mind as I fought back tears and stepped toward the hallway. I turned to Brian and said, "We'll talk more after I see the kids." He nodded, relief flooding his features at the prospect of postponing judgment. In the hallway, Sophie stood with her hands clasped in front of her, eyes wide. Emma balanced on one foot, fingering her band-aid, and little Jonah drifted between his sisters, clutching his favorite stuffed rabbit. I hugged them one at a time, whispering that everything was okay, even though I could feel my heart cracking. Sophie asked if she could have hot cocoa, and Emma wanted to know if we were still going to the fair this weekend. I managed gentle smiles, reassuring them that dinner had just run late, that treats were coming. Back in the living room, Brian sank onto the couch as I rejoined him, children's laughter fading behind us. I handed him my phone screen showing our savings balance perilously low and said we needed immediate transparency. He agreed to share all account information, passwords, statements, and commit to counseling sessions. I felt a flicker of hope that this catastrophe might bond us rather than break us completely. I reminded him that love meant facing the darkest moments together, Not hiding behind whispered pleas for calm, we spoke late into the night by the soft glow of a single lamp, mapping out steps to recover from the financial mess. I listed bills, due and emergency contacts for credit counseling. He promised to sell his motorcycle and any extra items of value. I called my sister to borrow against her wedding china, and Brian offered to pick up extra shifts at the office. Although exhaustion weighed on us both, I felt a strange relief in confronting the truth head-on instead of letting it fester unseen. As we crept upstairs to tuck the children into their beds, I realized something fundamental had shifted. The fear and betrayal still flared inside me, but it sat alongside a cautious determination. This marriage would be tested, perhaps even redefined, by what we did next. I kissed each child goodnight, whispering promises that our family would endure. In the silence of the hallway, I paused and wrapped my arms around Brian's waist, feeling the uneven rise of his chest. His whispered apology trembled against my back. I closed my eyes, inhaling the familiar scent of his shirt, and decided that, at this crossroads, we would either fracture forever or emerge stronger, bonded by the truth I had finally forced into the open. The morning sunlight filtered through our bedroom curtains as I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the hardwood floor. Last night's confrontation felt both raw and necessary. My head throbbed with a mix of exhaustion and relief. For the first time in months, the weight of secret debts was lifted, replaced by the uncertain burden of rebuilding trust. Downstairs, the aroma of coffee drew me from my thoughts. Brian was at the counter, hands wrapped around our favorite French press mug. He offered a tentative smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. We sat at the kitchen island, silent for a moment before I cleared my throat. I thanked him for brewing coffee and he nodded, eyes flicking to my expression as though asking permission to speak. He cleared his throat, then spoke with a sincerity that stung. He outlined our schedule for counseling appointments, financial review meetings, and weekly check-ins. I listened, scribbling notes on a scrap of paper. Though the plan felt overwhelming, each item was a step toward transparency. I felt my pulse slow as I realized this structure might be the framework we needed to move forward without paranoia. Later that morning, I called the credit counselor recommended by a close friend. Her voice was calm, professional, and full of empathy as she walked me through setting up a debt management account. I felt a flicker of hope at her words. For the first time, I wasn't navigating this mess alone. Documentation would be organized, payments scheduled, and a path laid out toward stability. Around noon, Brian and I spread documents across the dining table, each printout a reminder of our broken promises. Spreadsheets, bank statements, and even receipts from past vacations lay in neat piles. The children peeked in, curious about the papers. I closed my laptop and held Sophie's hand. Just Mom and Dad's busy work. I lied lightly. Her nod was automatic, and she scurried away to play Dot in mid-afternoon light. We gathered the kids for a brief family circle in the living room. I spoke gently about honesty and teamwork, emphasizing that our family was stronger when united. Brian added a promise to always be truthful. The children looked between us, absorbing our words with solemn faces. I ruffled Jonah's hair and kissed Emma's temple, praying that our words sank in deeper than the fractures we'd exposed. Later, Brian took me by the hand for a walk around the neighborhood park. The early summer blossoms scented the air with jasmine and honeysuckle. We walked in comfortable silence, the crunch of gravel beneath our feet a steady metronome. I felt the familiar flutter of butterflies shift into something steadier. For the first time in weeks, I laughed at one of Brian's jokes, and he smiled without guilt, as if reclaiming a piece of himself. That evening, we invited grandmother to join us for dinner, seeking her quiet wisdom. She listened attentively as Brian described our progress, nodding thoughtfully. When it was my turn, I admitted my lingering fears but shared budding optimism. Grandmother patted my hand, her voice warm. She reminded us that resilience often grows from hardship and that forgiveness was a gift we could both share. Her words felt like balm. Midweek, old anxieties resurfaced when I noticed a notification on my email about an unrecognized transaction. My chest tightened as I opened the message. Brian appeared behind me, concern etched on his face. I backed away, voice cracking. He gently took my phone and showed me the full explanation. It was a small test charge from the debt service, already reversed. Relief washed over me, mingled with embarrassment at my jump. In that moment, I recognized how fragile trust can be, yet how profoundly it can be rebuilt. I hugged Brian, his shoulder warm under my cheek. We whispered apologies and affirmations. I told him I was proud of his commitment and that I would work on my own insecurities. We made a pact to remind each other daily why we chose this life together, to guard our partnership against shadows and secrets. By the end of the week, we held a simple at-home date night. I cooked pasta while Brian arranged candles on the dining table. We laughed over spilled sauce and awkward dance moves in the living room. The children slept peacefully above, oblivious to the turmoil. As I watched Brian twirl me beneath soft music, I felt genuine joy. The evening wasn't perfect, but it felt honest and wholly ours. Saturday morning, we packed the kids into the car for the fair we'd promised. Bright banners fluttered in the breeze, carnival music drifting across the lot. Sophie's face lit up at the sight of cotton candy and rides. Emma clutched my hand as she watched a carousel, and Jonah squealed at the friendly clown tossing balloons. I held Brian's hand and let the children pull us into their world of wonder. As the day waned, I caught Brian's eye and saw a spark of relief there. We'd faced our worst fears together and survived. Hand in hand, we watched the sunset glow behind the Ferris wheel, feeling hopeful. The laughter of our children echoed and tangled with the Calliope's tune. In that moment, I knew our marriage, though tested, had roots deep enough to support new growth. I smiled, grateful for a second chance.